Now, each tRNA is specific for a particular amino acid because it has this anticodon, it is which is complementary to a certain codon. So it will always carry that the amino acid which is coded by that particular codon on it, it will always be carrying that amino acid. Now the first stage of translation, even before the translation has started, the binding of tRNA molecules to their appropriate amino acid takes place, and this process is known as tRNA charging. Now, how does a tRNA knows which amino acid it has to bind to? There is a set of enzymes which is called amino acyl tRNA synthetases. Now, this amino acyl tRNA synthetases enzyme is the one which does this role. Every cell has about 20 different amino acyl tRNA synthetases, which is one for each of the 20 amino acid, and each synthetase recognizes a particular amino acid as well as all the tRNAs that can accept that particular amino acid, and they help in the binding of that amino acid to that particular transfer RNA. The tRNA is activated, or we call it sometimes as charged, with amino acid in a two-step process, and both these steps are catalyzed by this enzyme amino acyl tRNA synthetase. Now, if you look at this process itself, it is a two-step process as I already said. Now, in the first step, the amino acyl tRNA uh, synthesis, it involves activation of the amino acid. Now, what will happen is the amino acid will first combine with an ATP molecule. It is rather, it will use the energy of the ATP molecule, and it will get converted into an amino acid AMP, which is adenosine monophosphate, and this enzyme, this particular step will be catalyzed by the same enzyme. Now the amino acid AMP intermediate does not get released from the enzyme before undergoing the second step. In the second step, it will go and react with the appropriate tRNA, and the amino acid will transfer from the AMP to tRNA. I think there should be a plus sign here and there should be a plus sign here which is missing, which I'll put before I post this, before I give you this presentation. Uh, So this is what is happening during the process. If you look at, there is this amino acid. This amino acid has a COO group at one of the ends. In the first step, the amino acid reacts with the ATP. Remember that it is always the acidic portion of the amino acid which will react with the ATP, and then this particular step will produce an amino acyl AMP and a PPI, and then this amino acyl AMP will, in the second step, it will react with the tRNA, where the AMP will move away and it will be released, and the amino acid will go and bind to the tRNA. So at the end of the tRNA gets charged, and the amino acid is linked to its appropriate tRNA. Now, translation as a process is divided into three phases. Now, there is a phase one which is called initiation phase. Then there is a phase two, or rather, you can even call them as stages. The second stage is elongation, and third is the termination. Now, we look at them stepwise. Let's first look at the stage one or phase one, which is called the initiation. Now, during initiation, what all is required for protein synthesis? First is mRNA, obviously, which is carrying the codes for the amino acid. The small and the large subunits of ribosome, which at the very start I said that ribosomes are they are the workbenches. Then a set of three proteins which are called initiation factors. Now these are the proteins which are involved in the translation. Then there is this initiator tRNA with N-formyl methionine attached. I hope you remember when we did the genetic code class, I told you there that the first or the start codon is always a AUG, which codes for formyl methionine. So all the proteins, they start with this formyl methionine. So obviously the first tRNA that will come, which is also called the initiator tRNA, it will always have N-formyl methionine attached to its end, 3' end. and then for energy a GTP molecule is required. Now the initiation process has three major steps. First step is the mRNA binds to the small subunit of ribosome. The step 2 is initiator tRNA binds to the mRNA through base pairing between codon and anticodon. And the third step is the large ribosome joins the initiation complex. Now let's look at these steps. The first step, as I said, is the binding of mRNA to the small subunit of the ribosome. Now, ribosome, as we remember, there are two subunits, large subunit and a small subunit. Now, important point to remember here is that the mRNA molecule can only bind to a ribosome molecule when the two subunits are separate. They're not together. Otherwise, mRNA molecule will never be able to bind. So, for that, these two subunits should remain separated before the, for the mRNA molecule to bind. Now, who does all this for the ribosomes and for the mRNA? Now, there is a protein called initiation factor 1. Now, this initiation factor 1, it helps in dissociation of large and small ribosomal unit. Now, because of this dissociation, and also because of the there's another factor called initiation factor 3, which binds to the small subunit of the ribosome, and it prevents the large subunit from binding. So what happens is these two subunits, because of the action of these two factors, initiation factor 1 and 2, the large and the small subunit, they remain dissociated, they remain separate. Because they are separate, the mRNA molecule can bind to the small subunit of the ribosome. Now, how do they how do they bind to each other? Both of them are RNA molecules. So there has to be some binding, means there has to be some base pairing. So there is a sequence called there is a sequence of 6 ribonucleotide. The sequence goes as AGG, AGG. Now this sequence is always present before the AUG start codon. Okay. Now before this and the sequence is as you can see, it only contains purines. It's called Shine-Dalgarno sequence. Now there is a base pairing with the region of the 16S RNA, rRNA of the small ribosomal subunit, which facilitates initiation. So the mRNA will bind to the small subunit using this sequence AGG, AGG. So there is a complementary base in the small subunit which helps in base pairing between the mRNA and the small subunit. So if you look at, there is a large subunit, there is a small subunit, they need to be separated. They are separated with the help of initiation factor 1 and initiation factor 2, which keep them separate. Otherwise they are normally joined. So because of this separation, the mRNA molecule can come and bind here. Now how does it bind? It binds because of the sequence, which is called Shine-Dalgarno sequence. Now, because of the Shine-Dalgarno sequence, the small subunit can go and bind, or rather we can say the mRNA goes and bind. And then there is this AUG, which is the first which is the initiation codon. So this is what happens in the first step. The first step is binding of mRNA to the small subunit of ribosome. Now, in the second step, the initiator tRNA, which is the initiator tRNA, as I already said, a tRNA carrying F formyl methionine with it. Now, this initiator tRNA will come and bind to the mRNA through base pairing between the initiation codon and the anticodon present on the tRNA. Now, this particular step requires another factor called initiation factor 2, which forms a complex with GTP. Okay, so you see here that there is this initiator tRNA. Obviously, it is carrying the anticodon UAC, which is complementary to AUG. Now, it first comes and forms a complex with GTP and IF2. Now, these at this point, if you look at and then it will come and it will form a base pairing with the start codon here. So at this particular time, the complex consists of what? It consists of a small subunit of RNA, it consists of an mRNA, it consists of initiated tRNA with its amino acid formylmethionine. It consists of a GTP molecule and consists of 3 initiation factors, initiation factor 1, 3 and 2. And this whole complex of these molecules is known as 30S initiation complex. This particular complex, till now, this large subunit has not come and joined with the small subunit. So this is what is known as 30S initiation complex. Now in this last step, the large subunit or the large ribosomal subunit will come and join this initiation complex. Now IF3 at this particular time, it will dissociate from the small subunit. Because of its dissociation, the large subunit can come and join the initiation complex, because that was the factor which was preventing it. The molecule of GTP, which was already present there with the IF2, gets hydrolyzed to guanosine diphosphate, and all the other initiation factors are also dissociated. And because of the dissociation of the initiation factors, the last subunit can come and join the small subunit. And now this complex will only have small subunit, large subunit, mRNA molecule, and a initiator tRNA. And this whole complex is known as 70S initiation complex.